Morin, the mother of Rachel Morin, who was tragically killed.
You'd be a fool to deny that there's a problem at the southern border.
We need to follow the laws that are already on the book. We need to close our borders. The American people should not feel afraid to live in their own homes.
I want them to know who she was as a person. She was very important to so many people, and I want people to remember her, because she's more than just a statistic.
Good morning, and thank you very much. This has been such a welcoming place. I'm so grateful to be here and so grateful for the opportunity to be able to tell my daughter's story. So thank you. My daughter, Rachel Morin, was a 37-year-old mother to 5 children. August 6, 2023, I was in Kentucky because I had a grandchild that had passed away from SIDS, when I got a phone call from my son, who is in Maryland. And the phone call went something like this: "Mom, there's somebody on the phone that would like to speak to you." "Okay." "Hello, Mrs. Morin? This is the lead detective. There's no easy way to tell you this, but we found your daughter's body. I had just found out maybe 3 or 4 hours earlier that she had been missing. A day or two later, we made it back from Kentucky to Maryland. My kids wouldn't let me drive the 10 hours because they didn't think I was emotionally able to. I met with the detective, and subsequent months later, some of the things that I found out was that my daughter that day had finished work, had gone to the Maw Trail. It's a small public in-town trail that we've walked as a family for over 25 years. So it's a well-known trail in our town. No sense of fear, it's just very safe. She went for her walk in the afternoon after work. She was a small businesswoman. And waiting in the woods was what we found out later, an alleged illegal immigrant that was a got-away. He tried to come into America 3 times through the border, was denied, sent back. The 4th time he crossed over as a got-away. He was fleeing El Salvador, where he had allegedly murdered a woman. He had made his way to Los Angeles from the border, and in March of 2023, he attacked a 9-year-old child and the mother of that child. He evaded capture and made his way from the West Coast to the East Coast, where he, on August 5th, 2023, found my daughter walking that trail, grabbed her from behind, dragged her into the woods. They said she was so bruised that her body was blanketed in bruises. He dragged her into the woods, he strangled her, he raped her, and then he stuffed her into a drain pipe. It's to get that story, or just to get that news that your daughter is missing is bad enough. But then to hear that she was murdered, and then to go and see her body in the funeral parlor, and you have to decide if we're going to have an open casket or a closed casket. Can her children be there or not be there? It is so, so very devastating. It's the worst pain that I think a person can feel. I'm so emotional right now, I can't think. Since that time, from when they captured this person, it was 10 months from the time that they found her body to the time they were able to capture him. So for 10 months, he lived in the very town where she was murdered. He continued to live in our town work in our town, and who knows if there's other victims, we don't know. It wasn't until he left the town and started making his way back to the West Coast that detectives and law enforcement and federal law agencies helped us to locate this person and to arrest him and bring him back to Maryland. My daughter's death is the second illegal immigrant murder in our county. There was a person, a young woman, a year before that had been murdered, raped, strangled, and murdered by an alleged illegal immigrant from El Salvador. The open borders that we have are so dangerous. You know, and when we found out that this man was an illegal immigrant, the Biden administration didn't say anything, didn't offer condolences, but President Trump, he called our family and he said how heartbroken he was and that if there was anything he could do to help us. And he sounded like a very caring man. He sounded like your grandfather who calls and says, "Hey, how you doing? Can I do something to help you?" And it's continued since that time. It's been over a year and a half, and they still continue to check in on our family and see if we're doing okay. These open borders, they have to be closed. They just have to be closed. I live in Maryland. Maryland is a sanctuary state, and there are several sanctuary cities. And if you live in a state that has a sanctuary city, you're not safe. You're a border state too. Because they will come to the sanctuary city, leave, commit crimes, and then go back to the sanctuary city where they hide from a prosecution. We have to close the borders. This is, and I've said this so many times before, it's not a bipartisan issue. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's American. It's common sense. It's we need, as Americans, to secure our borders, to make sure that our national security is where it should be for the American citizens, that we should be protecting our families. And so I'm hopeful that in the future that we're going to make progress on this border policies. But it's very important that we tell Rachel's story because she's not the only one. I know that you've seen some news about Lakeland Riley and about Alexis Nungarea. I can't pronounce her last name, a daughter. And there are some other girls that have been raped and murdered. Most of the attacks happen on children between 9 and 12 years old. Most of the attacks, if they don't end up in murder, they don't get reported because the little girl is ashamed. Who wants to tell somebody what's happened to them? The police are downplaying the amount of crime that's going on in our country. There are at least 100,000 people in our country that have been affected by immigrant crime. Aside from the fact that we have 20 million people in our country here illegally, not only does it affect our national security, but it affects every family in our nation. Every family. I know until they were able to find the suspect in my daughter's case, people were afraid to walk the streets. Women would come up to me and say, "I lock my doors, I lock my windows. I'm afraid to open my doors. I don't even want to walk down my walkway to check my mail." People live in fear. We shouldn't live in fear in our own homes, in our own towns. And I really believe the only way that we can get a grasp on this is to sanction sanctuary cities, remove funding from sanctuary cities and states, put policies into place that remove the criminal, illegal immigrants from our country. If we did that, that's at least 150 to 200 million illegal immigrants that we would be deporting. And I know that the current administration says we need immigrants in our country because of the economy. There are almost 7 million Americans that are out of work. Most of them are college students. Why can't we train college students to do some of these jobs? It would help with them getting a foot into whatever industry they want to get into, and it would help spur on the economy. It would help the unemployed. I'm just so grateful to be here. And I would just wanted to thank you again for this honor and opportunity to speak. Thank you very much. Thank you.